Good morning, everybody. Keith Engel for TGI Sports Talk. Live from East Greenbush, New York. We're having a little technical difficulty this morning. I somehow had left myself having to take one of the cats to the vet for an operation this morning. Thought I sent Ken Schott the invite right at 7:30 or 6 o'clock this morning, and apparently I sent it to StreamYard, which they're not going to show up. Hopefully Ken's getting that now. Let's get a couple things out of the way right away. I want to bring up my sponsor again, my unpaid sponsor, which unfortunately, I don't know if you can see this too good, but I'm going to put up an ad here later for this. It's Built by Kate, Christina Mathewson. You can reach her at Built by Cake on Instagram. Apparently, this is a paid advertisement, as I appear to have walked out of the Mathewson household last week without paying for the cookies that Christina gave me. Hang on one second. I got to send. I have to send Ken an email. Ken's having trouble getting in. It's our first morning with technical difficulties. We'll get Ken in here, I promise. This is probably great television, right? So hang in here with me, guys. Anybody that might be with me so far, I apologize. I know there's 6 of you here. See if there's anybody here I don't see any comments yet, at least on the StreamYard feed. So, again, my guest this morning is going to be Ken Schott from the Daily Gazette. I'm going to actually send him another invite here. He's got it. He'll be here in a second. Anyway, while we're doing this, I apologize. Oh, my God. Technical difficulties. I've never been quite under the gun. I'm usually up at 5 a.m. getting ready for this show. Probably doesn't seem like it, but I am. I want to thank last week's guest, Ron Bloomberg. Great guest last week. Ron's got his book. He's really pushing still, Designated Hebrew, which is out in re-release. And he's got a new book coming out called The Captain and Me. So we'll be on the lookout for that come spring. But we appreciate you guys watching last week. We had a lot of viewers. A lot of people have watched it since. I think we're well over 4,000 views. So for this show, live from East Greenbush, I think it's very good. So anyway, it looks like Ken has made it to the room. We had some technical difficulties today. I'm going to introduce my guest today, Ken Schott, the associate editor of the sports editor of the Daily Gazette. And Ken covers a variety of things. The union hockey, I know, is one of his big deals. And we really will get into a lot of stuff today. I want to cover some of the NHL playoffs and the NBA, the COVID situation there, the COVID situation in general, and we'll talk about a lot of stuff. So we got a lot to cover, so let's bring Ken in the room and say hello. Good morning, Ken.
Good morning, Keith. How are you?
I'm very good.
Thanks for having me on.
It's the first morning I've had some little technical difficulties. I thought I sent you that invite before I left this morning to take the cat for his operation. So I apologize for that.
How is the cat?
He'll be all right. He's got a little ear thing. They got to put him under anesthesia. It's a constant thing with him. So
they do have 9 lives. So
they do, and he's. I've got another one actually, who's probably on her 50th life. She's 21 years old, and I think I have to make arrangements for her after I'm gone. So. So we have Friday morning here. I'm happy you joined me today.
Yeah, well, we have a 1-year-old dog named Harper, and she's been really a godsend. And I'm very happy with her. And my son Steven named her after Bryce Harper because he's a big Philadelphia sports fan like I am. And she's a joy to be around. You get up in the morning, she's all happy to see you. And I haven't had a pet since I was a kid, and it's amazing what they can do to you.
It's amazing. I've never been without one. I had dogs till I was 40, and after I had to put the last one down, I just said I can't do this again. But then I end up with cats, so they're a little easier because I don't know. Half the time they don't care if you're around or not. So.
That's right. They're just in their own little world.
So welcome to Dog and Cats with Keith and Ken. For those of you just tuning in, this is Ken Schott, the associate sports editor for the Daily Gazette. I hope I gave that your title right this time.
You got it. Yep.
Awesome. It's funny, Ken. I wanted to cover a lot of stuff with you here today, and it's always hard to know where to start with somebody when we're going to cover a lot of topics. So I think we'll start with. I know you covered the NHL. You're pretty close with the NHL. I know you're a big Flyers fan, so I apologize for their flame out. But
that's okay. I'm over it.
They were. I mean, the NBA, and I kind of lumped the NHL and the NBA together. When they came back, obviously everybody was out for an extended period of time, as everybody knows. And when sports started to come back, I feel like they did it right when they came back and went into the total bubble situation to keep everybody safe. And I'm not really aware of any positive tests the NHL had. And the NBA, I'm not. They might have had one, but I don't even know if it was more than that.
I don't think the NBA had any. I mean, if they did, it was isolated, and we really hear about the NHL. I think did a wonderful job. I think that was the one you worried about because I know they were talking about the two hub cities. They were talking about one in the United States, one in Canada, and it turned out they made the best move and put both hub cities in Canada, in Toronto and Edmonton, and it worked perfectly. Because it's still, you think about it, this virus is still out of control, and we found out this morning that President Trump and his wife have come down with the virus. So it's just
really?
Yeah, it's so it's scary but you get the players involved and tell them this is what we need you to do, and they did it. Both the NHL and the NBA. I mean, a lot of sacrifices both the players made to get this done. That the officials in the NHL and the NBA, and they did it right. They knew how bad it was, and they took every precaution. They didn't stray from the mean. There were maybe a couple NBA guys that strayed from the bubble, and you got to
get chicken wings. You got to go to a strip club for chicken wings.
That's right. Yeah, I need my chicken wings from a strip club. But it's remarkable how they've been able to pull it off. I mean, you look at what happened with baseball early on with the Marlins. In Philadelphia, and then they found out they had like 18 players come down with the virus, and then we saw what happened with the St. Louis Cardinals, and that was more of an accident than anything else. And in baseball, they finally ended up getting under control, and they were going to have their bubbles, the rest of the playoffs in bubbles in Texas and California. But it's just, I was impressed with how both the NHL and NBA have handled this, and it just shows you if you do this right, it can work, and you can have sports. Now, what happens? Will come December, January when they want to start the regular season, and we're still in a situation here in the United States. That's going to be an interesting situation as to how the leagues are going to handle starting the regular season as late as it's going to be. I can't imagine we're going to see fans in the stands at the start. I know we're seeing some fans at football games right now, but it's going to be intriguing to see how the NHL and NBA handle it. I can't see them playing a full regular season, 82 game regular seasons either. I wouldn't be surprised if they start out maybe playing in bubbles and then slowly gradually going to home, back to their home rinks, but with limited fans.
I'm guessing a lot of the decision making with pro basketball, as we said, they're going to start their season in just a few months again. College basketball, the sports that haven't started, I think what happens with college football and the NFL maybe will determine how they go forward in those sports, I think. Yeah,
especially now the Tennessee Titans having postpone their game against the Steelers on Sunday because they have an outbreak of coronavirus. And we're going to see the Big Tens, come back to play football, the Pac-12 and play football. It scares me that they want to play football, but there's going to be I don't want to wish it, but you just wonder what happens if a player or two contracts it and unfortunately that passes away. You wonder what happens.
Yeah.
I mean, do they all of a sudden stop playing football? The NFL is going to be, I think the intriguing thing was it's unlike baseball where you can play doubleheaders. You can't play doubleheaders in football. So I don't know how they're going to find a place to make up this game between the Steelers and Titans. I mean, they got to,
They do have a bye week, don't they? Don't both teams have a bye week, but probably not the same week.
Not at the same time. So
yeah.
I think the Steelers have their bye next week. So I think they may move some games around. I mean, they may take this as their bye week this week, and it's going to be interesting to see how this turns out with the Titans. You hope it's isolated, because apparently the Vikings, they don't have any problems. So it's good to see that they don't have any problems. But let's see what happens if some other teams have this.
Well, one game, I mean, like you said, you can find ways around it, I guess. Even if you had to extend the season a week and play the Super Bowl a week later, you could do things one game. But if it becomes multiple games for multiple teams, now you start to have a problem.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. Do you want to extend the season into March? That's going to be the I mean, we're obviously we're going to see that with high school sports around here, where the fall sports too, with certain sports like high school football, volleyball, the high risk sports that the state has said these sports. So it's going to be interesting how that works out.
It's unfortunate for the kids that play spring sports and fall sports. I mean, you're going to have to make a choice of what you're going to do.
Yeah, I mean that's unfortunate, but it's the way of the world, unfortunately, right now. So I think they'll make that work. They'll make that work.
The other thing with the to stay on COVID, I don't want to stay on COVID that long. It's obviously something we got to deal with, but I try to focus on the sports part as much as I can. One thing that interests me, and I haven't had a chance to ask anybody about this, and we know that the colleges, even some of the pro teams, have limited attendance. But I'm watching college games last week where I think at most 25% of the stadium was there, or capacity, right?
Yeah.
But then I'm looking in end zones and I'm seeing clusters of what look like 100 or 200 people together. You see people clustered or scattered throughout the stadium, but then you'd see shots where there'd be all these people together. And I'm thinking, well, how can that be? That's
somebody not doing their job. There should be that 6 feet of distance between them, and it's not happening. You wonder if some of these people are still taking this virus seriously. I mean, we know there's over 200,000 dead because of the virus, and I don't want to get political, but obviously, early on it was they treated it as well as just the flu and all that stuff, and it's turned out not to be the flu. So you hope that they are being at least wearing masks out there if they are not standing 6 feet apart. But you got to be smart. It's the way of the world now. You can't, we're in a new world here, and it's different. And you got to adhere to some of the stuff. You got to take this seriously.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the sacrifice we're asked to make is not that great, and the faster we all stay on board, or the more we'll stay on board, and the quicker we do it, maybe the quicker we'll get through this whole thing. So
yeah, I hope so.
Safer. Yeah. So just let's get back onto the sports scenery. I mean, the Stanley Cup playoffs just ended not too long ago with the Lightning winning. Any surprises? Anything that stands out to you there?
I think what stands out the most to me is the fact that Tampa Bay Lightning learned a lesson from last year. I mean, the Lightning, top team in the NHL last year, won a President's Trophy, and were embarrassed by the Columbus Blue Jackets in the first round, swept out of the first round. And they had a 3-0 lead in game one of that series last year and ended up losing that series. And they found out that you can't what you do in the regular season doesn't necessarily translate to the playoffs. They weren't a tough team last year, but they got tougher. They added Pat Maroon, who won the Cup last year with the St. Louis Blues. They added former Albany Devils and New Jersey Devil winger Blake Coleman. He brought some grit to that team, and they were the right team. It was their time, and they just played outstanding hockey. They had the 5 overtime win against Columbus in the first round, and they were tenacious. I mean, I was impressed with the way they play. I don't think, even if my Flyers got past the Islanders in the second round, I don't think they would have gotten past the Lightning, because they were that so tough and that good. Great goaltending, attention to detail. John Cooper is an excellent coach, and what I learned is Tampa Bay Lightning is a pretty darn good hockey team, and I think that what I learned also about the Dallas Stars is another team that really wasn't expected to be there, but they play with determination. I mean, if this is a team that would get behind by 2 or 3 goals and it wouldn't be a problem. And their series clincher against Calgary, they were down 3-0 that game and ended up scoring the final 7 goals of the game. So Tampa Bay to me was the team. I think they finally got that cup. It was a year late, but they got it, and it was a wonderful playoff round. A lot of surprises. Obviously, Pittsburgh getting knocked off by the 12th seed, Montreal, Chicago, the 12th seed knocking off.
That's a surprise, yeah.
Yeah. So I enjoyed it. I mean, it was kind of weird watching hockey in August, but it was a lot of fun. And again, hats off to the NHL for getting this done. I don't think people out there all credit the NBA for doing the bubble, but I think the NHL doesn't get enough credit for how they do it, especially a physical sport like that. You worry about that stuff, but like I said, everything worked out perfectly, and we have a Stanley Cup champion. And now we have an off season.
Well, how long is the off season? When are they looking to start?
That's the thing we don't know yet. I think Gary Bettman, the commissioner, would like to get it started in December, but right now they got to wait to see what happens with the virus. It comes down to that. Where are they going to play to start the season? As we said earlier, will they be a bubble situation where you play games? And maybe, I think you go back to Canada again and have some put teams in certain cities to start the season. Then maybe once you get rolling, and if we see that the virus is regressing, and because let's face it, the second wave hasn't hit yet, but if we see that virus regressing, and maybe we bring the teams back to their home cities, but you have limited capacity to start the season, and then as we gradually go on, and maybe get the stands filled again. But I don't think either. I don't think NHL is going to be able to play a full 82 game regular season. I think they like to, but I think in all reality is that's not going to happen. And one other thing with the NHL I should mention, for all the labor troubles they've had over the years, they lost a season to a lockout. They've had other lockouts. Not only the fact that they got these playoffs off, but they also got an extension on the CBA. So there's going to be no labor strike for the next few years. And that, to me, that was probably the biggest thing that came out before the playoffs. Like, we're going to have labor peace for a while, and they might go back to the Winter Olympics. That's just great. So it's nice to be able to talk about hockey, not off ice issues involving labor.
Well, it's always fun not to have to talk about labor disputes in any other sports. I mean, it comes up too often, but
that's going to come up in baseball again next year. So we're getting ready.
I know. We're heading down and I think we might be heading down a little ugly road. I'm not sure, but we'll find out. Before I get off hockey, as a Ranger fan, and more of in all honesty, a fair weather Ranger fan, so I don't get to be a big Ranger fan that often. Do you think? I want to get your take on Henrik Lundqvist. You think he should hang it up? I mean, I know he's out looking for a job. I
think he probably thinks he still has something left in him. Whether it's going to be a number one goaltender, I don't think so. But I think he's going to have to accept that reality, because the Rangers, I think, made the right move, because he's 38 years old, and they have a better goaltender right now. I think he can hang on for one more year or 2 more years. Maybe as a backup, you maybe play him 30 games or so, but you have his experience there. It's a shame that he did not get a chance to win a Stanley Cup for the Rangers. I mean, he only got the one final in his time there, but it's just an outstanding goalie. I think the Rangers will retire as number 30. I can't see anybody wearing that number again.
Yeah.
But the fans loved him, and he loved the fans back. And I think what he wrote on Twitter, just expressing his
classy guy
and everything. He's a class act. I've never met the man. I've never talked to him, but he just seems like a wonderful man, wonderful gentleman.
Yeah, we'll miss him as Ranger fans for sure.
Definite Hall of Famer.
Yeah, for sure. Let's change gears a little bit. We'll jump into because we're in it's funny you're talking about the watching hockey and basketball. We're watching in October, and my internal calendar is like all screwed up because
I know
I had very little college football for weeks here in September, and the NBA's going, the NHL's going, and it seemed like in a flash we're in the MLB playoffs, and I'm like, what's going on here? So,
Yeah.
but the I think, Major League Baseball, getting back to them starting, I mean, I was very, I don't know, hesitant to really jump on board a 60-game season, but, all things considered, if you take away the 7-inning doubleheaders and are starting with a runner on second base, and fortunately that's not happening in the playoffs, they've had a decent season. We've had some really interesting stories. I think the Marlins, Donnie Mattingly, if he's not the MVP or the Major League Baseball Manager of the Year, I don't know who is. Maybe the Cardinals manager with what they went through.
Yeah, well, I think Manning's definitely the National League Manager of the Year. I mean, although I hate the Marlins for what they did because it affected the Phillies, my team, for about a week, and
yeah,
the Phillies had other issues, no bullpen, all that stuff. So I'm not going to get that, but that's still mad about that.
I can never tell by your post whether you're happy or sad about your team.
But it's it was a weird regular season. I actually don't mind at least regular season. Put the runner on second base. Let's get the games over with quickly, because some of these games. I mean, if you look what happened with the game one of the Reds and Braves. I mean, you wish they had a runner on second base instead of that, because nobody could. But then again, the Reds couldn't buy a hit when the runner's in scoring position. So what's the point of putting a runner on second base? But I like some of those rule changes. I mean, the 7-inning doubleheaders, I didn't mind, because I used to cover those when minor league baseball, when I was covering Harrisburg, when I was working down in York, Pennsylvania, or the Albany County Diamond Dogs. So 7-inning doubleheaders they don't bug me as much, and I can understand why they did it. But it was a fascinating regular season, because you had the 16-team playoff this year, which is great for this year, but I'm not sure I want that.
No, I can say I know.
Road. I mean, because especially the 2 out of 3 first round here. I mean, you see a team like Minnesota who you can mash the ball, and then they're out of the playoffs because they couldn't mash the ball in the postseason. It's a crapshoot. But we've had some exciting playoffs. I mean, last night the San Diego St. Louis game was just back and forth, and I like San Diego. I mean, it's a cocky team, but I mean, they're good, and they're going to be a team to watch in the National League for years to come with Fernando Tatis Jr. I mean, wow, he brings a lot of energy to that ball club. So it was. I mean, you wonder if they were going to get the season off, because it was more had to do with labor issues, trying to figure out how they're going to the salary and all that stuff, and that's why we're going to see more issues with labor with baseball in next year, because with the CBA expiring at the end of the next season. So, but they managed to get it off. Baseball, in spite of some missteps along the way, they got the games in, and then we're being treated to an exciting postseason.
It is, and again, I'm not a fan of the 60. This year, I get it, the 16 teams in, but for this year, I think it's making for some exciting baseball. The Astros, obviously, winning in the first round I know a lot of people are rooting against them.
Yeah,
and they don't learn their lesson, right? They're popping off after they win, and
yeah, that bothers me, because you think they'd be contrite for what happened. And especially, I mean, you figure that also a lot of these players played at Tri-City, so you kind of want to root for them, but then you hear what they did and all that stuff. It's like, you really, you still think it's okay? And no, I mean, they're still arrogant about it. It just rubs people the wrong way. You think you take your medicine, just say you apologize and let's move on. And the way that they had the press conference before the first spring training back in February, and they basically it was a non-apology apology.
Yeah,
that just rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. And then the owner really wasn't apologizing for what happened, and it leaves you already have a sour taste in your mouth for what happened, and now you're very angry just when you want to see somebody just basically just run roughshod over these guys. I mean, it's going to be interesting when fans are back in the stands and they play the full 162. Because I don't think there was much retaliation, but there could be once we get the 2021 season.
Yeah, early on, with Joe Kelly and the Dodgers, I guess was about the most the closest we got to somebody really trying to, take charge of that situation.
And then the A's and the Astros had that brawl, and
Oh, that's true too. Yeah.
they're going to face each other in the ALDS. That's going to be a lot of fun.
Well, I think both those series have some intrigue. Obviously, the Marlins and the Yankees, or the Rays and the Yankees, obviously have had their issues this year.
No love lost there.
So it could get ugly. There could be some people going to the hospital, I'm afraid.
It'll be like watching hockey.
Yeah, it might be. I mean, you're right. As a Yankee fan, I mean, I'd love to play the Astros myself. I'd love to see the Astros beat the A's and play them in the championship series. I don't know that that's going to happen. The Rays have had the Yankees number much of the year.
Yeah.
And every time the Yankees have a couple of good games, my Yankee fans, that brethren, they all get excited. Gary Sanchez, it's a home run and he's back, and the team's flawed.
Yeah, Yankees can't stay healthy either. So it's if they can stay healthy, they're a good team, but they can't stay healthy. It's going to be lights out in the Rays, and we'll be moving on to the ALCS.
Yeah, and it's funny, we're talking about the exciting Cardinal Padre game last night, and I'm still trying to recover now because I'm 60 years old now, and I can't stay up and watch playoff baseball till 1:30 in the morning and get up at 5:30. It's just the Yankees get to the playoffs, and I know there was a couple of rain delays, but oh my God, that 9-inning game shouldn't go to 1:30 in the morning, even with a rain delay.
No, I mean, nobody could pitch in that game. I mean, I left work, I would say about maybe 12:15, got home, watched the rest of the game, and of course the Dodgers-Brewers game was supposed to be on ESPN after the Yankees game, and they were showing out on ESPN too. And then they finally got the game on ESPN. They showed the final 2 hours of that game. So, playoff baseball, we've seen a lot of games over the last few years just take forever. And I think it's it's a combination of pitchers can't pitch, and they too much strategy involved trying to just speed it up a little bit. Just take the ball and pitch. I mean, I'm back in the days when. Steve Carlton, growing up in Philadelphia, would pitch a game. You'd get there for 7:30 start, and you'd be done by 9:30.
The regular season games last year and this year seemed to move faster. I mean, they moved the starts up to 7:00. Being a Yankee fan, right? The game starts at 7:00. The games would be over 10:00 or so, which still is relatively long compared to what you were just talking about.
Yeah, back in our day, pitchers got the ball. These batters didn't step out of the batter's box to adjust their batting gloves or anything like that. You just got the ball and threw it and see what happens.
It's funny during the lockdown when there was no sports. I mean, I watch a lot of YouTube and I watch a lot of 70s baseball, and it's like night and day watching You're right. Yeah. The ball comes back. The ball's coming back to the plate in about 10 seconds.
And isn't it amazing if you watch those games back then? The batters did not crowd the plate. They're basically toward the other end of the batter's box. There's plenty of room in that inside corner. Now the batters, they're standing on top of the plate, and they wonder why they get angry.
Don't throw inside, right?
Yeah.
Throw inside. I'm coming out and beating your brains in because I mean you got to give the pitcher part of the plate, right? I mean,
right. It's a different game.
We're too old school, I guess.
Yeah.
So your Phillies, I mean, I really thought your Phillies were going to do well this year. They played well for stretches. Bringing Joe Girardi in, and Didi Gregorius, who I like a lot. And they got some good pitchers. What's the problem there?
Well, it starts with the bullpen. Matt Klentak, the general manager, did not address it, and it showed. I mean, the bullpen was one of the worst in Major League Baseball this year, and probably Major League Baseball history. And I'm starting to think that Aaron Nola is not an ace, especially when it comes time in September, because he has struggled the last 3 Septembers, and he threw almost 100 pitches in less than 3 innings or less than 4 innings against Tampa, and a must-win game for the Phillies. If they win that game, they're in the playoffs, and he struggles, and it was just. I mean, Bryce Harper can be good stretches, but then he can take some bad swings and try to do too much. Reese Hoskins finally stopped being Mr. Walk and got to where he was a couple of years ago and was aggressive. He was for a guy who's supposed to be a power hitter, he takes too many walks. I want to see a guy up there swinging. I don't want to see him take first 2 pitches for strikes and then he has to battle back and And then JT Realmuto, that's going to be an interesting situation. I think the Phillies really messed up there by not signing him before the start of the season. Now, I think he goes to free agency, and I think the Phillies don't get him. And that's going to be, I mean, I know Bryce Harper's been an advocate in having the Phillies re-sign Realmuto. He's the best defensive catcher out there. So, I mean, Didi grew, like you said, Didi was a godsend for this team.
He's a great player.
I mean, the one player that really shocked me, and I've always not been a fan of his, that was backup catcher Andrew Knapp. I mean, he had an outstanding year with the bat. He hit over 300, I believe, and to me, it definitely comeback player of the year. I mean, even maybe quasi team MVP, just for the way he, contributed this year. Zach Wheeler was a great signing. Thank you to the New York Mets for letting him go. You probably could have used him, but it's just a team that I think Girardi's going to have a lot more say in who this team goes after. They got to fix that bullpen. Realmuto, getting him signed is priority one. Priority two, fix that bullpen, because that bullpen was just utter disaster. And then, I look back to when the Phillies were so dominant in the late 2000s and 2007, 8, 9, 10, 11. Especially when they won the World Series in 08, how a great bullpen they had back then. And then it just crushes me that this bullpen that they have just stunk.
Well, you thank the Mets for Wheeler. You can thank the Yankees for Didi, because I'll tell you, before he got hurt, he was the MVP of that team in my mind.
Yeah.
With his defense and his bat surprised me. When he came over to replace Jeter, I was like, well, who's going to replace Derek Jeter? This is one of the hardest things somebody's got to do in baseball. And he was great from day one almost.
Yeah. So he didn't, the pressure didn't get to him, and he seems like a good, fun player to be around. And I hope the Phillies, he's a free agent as well. I hope the Phillies keep him. So if they can get him and Realmuto and fix the bullpen, we might have a shot in 2021.
You like Girardi?
Yes, I do. Joe. He seemed, in interviews I was listening to, even during the pandemic, during the break there, he seemed relaxed and he seemed very excited. I know Philadelphia media is probably tough as the New York media. Sometimes I think Joe and New York media didn't get along, but he seems like he knows what he's doing, and I think he's an old school manager. He obviously listens to the analytics, but also you got to manage with the gut, gut. And he does that, which Gabe Kapler did not. And that's why Phillies fans like me did not like him. And I think he lost a lot of Phillies fans in his first game as manager when he took Aaron Nola out after 5 1/3 innings when he was shutting out the Atlanta Braves. So you have to have a manager. Yeah, I understand analytics are part of the game now, fine, but analytics, you can't always rely on analytics. You got to rely on gut. You got to rely on base. We've lost the situational baseball because of analytics. We talk about the runner on second base to start the extra innings. Why doesn't anybody move the runner over? Just hit to the right side or sacrifice bunt.
Nobody.
Everybody's just trying to mash the ball into the stands. So get the move. You want to manufacture runs. You can't always rely on a home run.
Yeah, I've talked about this. The very first show I did was with Kevin Kernan. We talked a lot about this, and a lot of these kids come up. They've never bunted.
Yeah,
that's why they don't bunt with a guy in second base. They can't.
No,
it's frustrating.
It's sad. It's sad. I mean, it's a lost art, and that's why we see so many strikeouts, because nobody knows how to do situational baseball anymore. Especially these big contracts. Some of these players may not want to do situational baseball. They want to be the hero.
It's funny. I read it was a stat last year, and I wish I could remember it. I mean, it was a compilation of the base on balls and the strikeouts and the percentage of at bats where absolutely nothing happens.
Yeah,
and it's astronomical, and it's not good for the game. I mean,
no, they got to find a way to somebody's got to break the ball and say, look, analytics, throw the analytics out. We need to win the game. That's the important thing. Win the game. Let's do what we have to do to win a game. Not rely on home runs. And That's why we've seen games over the years, the last few years go 16, 17 innings because nobody wants to play situational baseball. Yeah, if they bring back the runner second next year, I'm not going to have a problem with that. I just don't want to see it in the postseason. Sort of like the NFL, you have the 5-minute overtime in the regular season, but you don't want to see that in the postseason. You want to see that 20-minute 5 overtimes.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Well, sometimes people go, "Oh my God, that game took 7 hours, that hockey game." But it's while you're in the moment, it's an exciting experience, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, having that game on the other day, the Cardinals and I'm sorry, was it
Red Braves?
Yeah, the Atlanta Braves, right? I mean, I grew up watching games like that, thinking especially in a postseason, there's tension. It builds inning after inning after inning. It's really like no score. I mean, some people go, "Oh my God!" And it's a Sports Center. In my mind, it's the Sports Center syndrome, right? And the video game syndrome. We got to have home runs, and we got to have guys stand at the plate admiring their home runs, or it's not exciting. Well, as a guy of a certain age, you're probably a little younger than I am, but you obviously remember the days when we played the game differently.
Yeah. I mean, nobody bat flip, nobody admires home runs back in our day. You just rounded the bases. Even, curtain calls were sort of frowned upon back then. So.
Yeah, once in a while you'd get one, right? But
can
you imagine some of the guys today who are just like back in the day, just continually hitting into the shift time after time after time and not taking advantage of an entire side of the field open to them.
Yeah, it's some of these. It's a different game. I mean, I'm not a fan of the shift, but if they're giving you open space, go for it. Just that way, maybe if they keep doing that, they'll stop shifting.
Yeah, well, I was just going to bring that point up. I mean, obviously, people want to put in rules to eliminate the shift. I don't want to see more rules for stuff like that. You can eliminate it just by doing what we just talked about. It'll go away.
Yeah.
So I think we're on the same page there. But I think we're in for an exciting postseason. I'm hoping the Yankees can kind of keep their momentum going a little here. But
we'll see what happens. As I said, the Tampa Bay series is going to be exciting and bitter. Too
Yeah,
bad it's not a 7-game series.
Yeah, it's funny because for some reason I thought everything was 7 games after this first round. I must have been thinking about the NBA playoffs. So I do like 7-game series better than 5, and certainly better than 3. That 3-game series is scary, man.
Yeah.
So, well, let's move on a little bit to the NFL, and I know that it feels like I'm hitting a lot of pain points for Ken Schott today. I apologize because.
Why did I come on today?
I mean, we can't. When we talk about the NFL and some surprises and disappointments, I mean, your Eagles have struggled, and I do put a couple shillings in a game here and there, man, and they beat me twice this year. I don't know why I was on them the second time after the first loss.
Yeah, I didn't pick them to win week 2, which was a good move because the Rams are good. I thought they would actually show up against the Bengals, and and then have that tie game. And the ironic thing is they actually gained a half game out of that because of that tie, because everybody else in the division lost. That's how bad the NFC East is. But hey, Carson Wentz, I mean, you thought he had a great 2017 season until he got hurt, and Nick Foles, and we know what happened there.
Yeah, we can talk about that. That gives you a chance to talk about something good if you want to talk about it.
By the way, next Thursday, Chicago and Tampa Bay, the rematch. Nick Foles.
Nick Foles is a starter now. Yeah.
Fox lucked. That's the Fox first Thursday game of the season. They lucked into that one.
They sure did.
So, but I got to say this, for all the Eagles fans who want Nick Foles as a starter, I have to remind them something. His first start against the Giants after Wentz went down with a knee injury. My son I went to that game down at MetLife Stadium, and he had a good game. Yeah, the Eagles won that game. But then the next 2 games against the Raiders on Monday night, on Christmas night, he was awful. And then for the limited time he faced the Cowboys in a game that didn't mean anything for the Eagles, he was awful. Eagles fans were calling for the third-string quarterback, Nate Sudfeld, to start against the Falcons in the playoffs. People forget that.
Not you, I hope.
And Foles managed the game against the Falcons, and all of a sudden, the next 2 games, Nick Foles could not be beat. So, and then he comes back, and of course they had to leave in the playoffs again the following year, but it wasn't as good. Nick Foles can be good in stretches. There's no doubt about that, but he can be bad in stretches. So, once
He's made a bunch of money off those good stretches. I'll tell you that.
he has. I wonder if Jacksonville regrets getting rid of him at this point.
They may.
So, but I mean, I thought once, there's a lot of pressure on him. And I think last year he stayed healthy until the Chiefs shot by Clowney in the playoff game with Seattle. But he seemed like he was confident last year, but all of a sudden that confidence is gone. Whether it's an offensive line that's not doing a good job protecting him, and he's making poor decisions. The game against Washington, I mean, the Eagles are dominating 17-0, about ready to go into halftime, and he throws that interception, and that turned the game around. And just Wentz was awful after that, and the defense couldn't stop Washington. And then the next week against the Rams, the defense was awful, and then Wentz throws 2 more interceptions, including a momentum-changing one that the Eagles were driving for a go-ahead touchdown, and then he throws 2 interceptions against the Bengals, but he leads them back and gets the game in the overtime. But it's just, I don't know. It's just you wonder what's wrong with this team. I mean, Wentz is one of the problems, but not the only problem. The defense has been, even though it's been bad, and they can't keep guys healthy, and that's the thing to me. I don't understand. They've had tons of injuries in training camp, and you just wonder what are they doing wrong that these guys keep getting hurt. I mean, if you remember back in our days in the NFL's in the 70s, guys didn't work out in the offseason. They
Right.
got training camps were longer, and that's when they got into shape. They used to have 2-8 camps in the middle of July and hot July days, but they got into shape that way. Here, I think you're not giving your body a chance to relax, to recover. It's like you're off. You take 2 weeks off at the end of regular season, and you start working out again. And it's like,
it's not football activity either.
No,
I mean, they used to hit in training camp too. I mean, they don't hit anymore.
Yeah, because they got new rules involved with the Players Association. It's just, I don't know. It just seems, we saw what happened in week 2. A lot of injuries. Saquon Barkley out for the year. Bosa from the 49ers out for the year. And somebody's had to look at this and say, what are we doing wrong? Is there something we can do with these guys in the offseason? Maybe just let them recover, give them a couple months off. Don't make them work, just have them just relax and just let your body recover from any bumps and bruises that you have, and just then we'll start working out. Maybe March or April or even May. I don't know. I'm not a medical expert, but it just seems something is not right.
Yeah, I think I see the same thing. To regress for just 1 second, I see the same thing in baseball. I think these guys are too big and too muscle bound in a lot of cases. I mean, some of the injuries you never even heard of.
Yeah,
back in our day. So, but sticking to the NFC, or the NFC, the NFL. I mean, are there any? What have been the surprises you've seen this year besides your Eagles being 0-3?
I think New England being with Cam Newton I didn't know what to expect there, but so far so good. I mean, it's been working out there.
They may get him killed, but
yeah, but and obviously no surprise with the New York teams. They're both awful. I think the Atlanta Falcons. I mean, my goodness, how do you keep blowing leads in the second half? How do you start with the onside kick against Dallas? How do you not know the rules? You don't have to worry about going 10 yards. You can get on it any time, and they're just standing around watching this ball go 10 yards, and
that's inexcusable.
Cost them a game, and then they blow the game against the Bears last week. So that's shocking, just the way they've been able to lose games. I think what we see at Green Bay, they're just we know we had 13-3 last year, and of course there was some turmoil when they drafted a quarterback in the first round, but they seem to be working all cylinders right now. So like I said, it's an intriguing season. I mean, obviously, but I'm going to be watching the AFC East because is Buffalo finally going to break through and end the Patriots' reign, and they're 3-0 so far. So I mean, it could happen. So that'll be a interesting watch there. Yeah, and of course I'll be focused on the NFC because you're going to wonder if anyone's going to have a winning record by the end of the season.
Yeah, the Eagles are not going to be out of this for a while.
No. And here's the thing, but obviously with two more teams in the playoffs, you have 7 teams in each conference now, so it's going to be a little easier to make the playoffs. So I mean, a team like the Eagles, 0-2-1, not out of it yet. So there's still a lot of surprises yet to come. We'll see what happens.
Who do you see the teams that have struggled? And we've talked about some of them this morning, but I mean, teams that have really gotten off to bad starts. Who do you think are most likely to turn it around? I mean, the Eagles will have a shot just because of the division they play in, but
yeah.
Anybody else?
I think if the Falcons can overcome, if they can, win a game. I know they go to Green Bay on Monday, but that's going to be a tough task. But I think if they get a win there, and that could help their confidence and maybe get them back on track. Because you remember the Falcons, they had an awful start last year, but came back and almost, they ended up with a decent record. But I mean, they have a good quarterback in Matt Ryan. If they have Julio Jones can stay healthy.
Stephen Ridley, they added great talent to add to Jones.
Yeah, and I think one other team to watch. I mean, not as far as off to a bad start, but we mentioned teams to watch out for the Arizona Cardinals with Kyle Murray out there at quarterback, and I still can't believe they lost the Lions home last Sunday because that was one of my suicide pool picks.
I was shocked at that.
So that's a team maybe to keep an eye on out, and I think the best division might be the NFC West. If you look at it with Seattle, San Francisco, the Rams, and the Cardinals meet. Maybe it's possible with the new playoff format, all 4 teams get in the playoffs from that division.
Yeah, that'd be interesting if they all made the playoffs. I mean, I think they added we have extra wild card team this year,
right?
Too,
so 7 teams in each conference make the playoffs. Only one the team with the best record gets the bye. I think maybe we're at the point now. I just say that let's go 16 teams in the playoffs, and because it doesn't seem fair to me that only now 1 team gets the bye instead of 2. But yeah, we'll see how this format works.
Well, given the Patriots situation, I probably have to agree with you because it's doubtful we'll have the best record in the conference. So I think we should have nobody should get buys, I guess, is where I am now.
Yeah, it's true.
I'm surprised that obviously some of the bigger stories, Tom Brady going to Tampa Bay, and he hasn't set the world on fire yet. They're playing okay.
Yeah, Gronkowski hasn't done anything there.
I don't know that he's going to. He was the biggest thing when people said, "Oh, now Gronk's there," and Gronk wasn't not that huge a factor. He had some big catches in the playoffs in his last season, but he was just not half the player he was previous to that.
No, year off. I think some people say year off. It's probably going to affect him, and it has so far. He hasn't not really done much, and it wouldn't be surprised me if you're down the road or midway through the season if he continues to be ineffective that the Bucs cut him.
Well, maybe he wants to come back to Foxborough for half a season. He at least can run block.
Yeah,
he does run block well.
Yeah,
I think Bucs will be fine.
Yeah, I think the disappointing thing about so far was the matchup Monday night between Kansas City and Baltimore. We expected a big shootout, and
wow,
who's going to stop Patrick Mahomes? I good luck trying to do that. That's just. The guy is amazing. And I think one of the Baltimore linemen said that's why they pay him $500 million because he's just it's amazing. It's amazing to me. He just comes in and just really he's relaxed and just having fun out there, and he can't be stopped. He runs on you. He makes fancy passes, and I think Ravens, we want to see that Lamar Jackson matchup. Well, it was advantage Mahomes all the way. Jackson did not have a good game that night, and I think it's scary how good this Chiefs team is, and can they be stopped? That's going to be, I think, an intriguing thing as we progress during the season because they look like they're working on all cylinders right now, and headed back to another Super Bowl appearance.
You're only going to play so many bad games during the season, and they probably played a bad game against the Chargers and still won that game. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't see any. I don't know if they're going to lose a game. Everybody loses, but we'll see.
Well, maybe if they wrap things up and they got the top seed, I think maybe Andy Reid. Andy Murray's a former hockey coach I used to deal with. He's a college coach, but Andy Reid, maybe he puts the brakes on a little bit. Just I mean, maybe to him, a perfect record doesn't mean much. So we'll see how that goes down the road.
Well, you want to keep Mahomes healthy because I mean, there's been a lot of being a Patriot fan, watching Tom Brady for 20 years. Tom Brady is a great player. Whether you think he's the best ever, it really doesn't matter. He's a great player. Montana, all these guys you want to name. This kid does things that those guys could never think about doing.
No look passes, and
it's amazing. It's fun to watch.
Yeah.
And we actually have them Sunday afternoon. So actually that game wasn't going to be on TV. And then I saw near column the other day they are on.
Yeah, it's going to be on because New England, it's the better matchup. I mean, I know Buffalo fans.
Oh, they got to be irate.
But CBS is putting their D team, announce team on the game. So it's like that game doesn't mean much to them. I mean, I'd rather have the better matchup. And like I said, Buffalo Bill fans, I feel your pain. You want to have their game on here locally, but Chiefs Patriots is the marquee matchup. And of course, let's remember that Channel 6 does go into Pittsfield, Massachusetts. So so they're going to appease their viewers out in Western Massachusetts.
Yeah, I'm happy that the game was on. Didn't want to have to go out and have to watch the game at 4:30. I don't mind 1:00 games, but I don't like. I'm old. I can't be out at 4:30 on a Sunday, man. That's like the middle of the night.
Well, my Eagles are on Sunday Night Football, so I'm going to be up late.
Hate those games. One good thing about the Patriots becoming more like everybody else is I won't. Right now, there's still a bunch of night games and 4:00 games, but at some point we're going to have a lot of 1:00 games like everybody else does.
The thing about the Patriots, I asked this question of Jim Nantz, Tony Romo during a conference call last month. Bill Belichick intrigues me. You see him on the sideline and post-game press conferences or any press conference, he's so dour and it's on the Cincinnati and all that stuff, but I mean, away from the game,
yeah,
he is engaging. I mean, it shocked me to see him doing a Subway commercial. Did it shock you?
Yeah, a little bit, but having watched the NFL Network did a two-parter on him one time a couple of years ago, and you saw him outside of his element, and he's a different guy. I mean, Bon Jovi's one of his best friends. I mean, who thinks that?
I mean,
but the commercials do surprise me a bit.
And he was helped host the NFL Network's 100 Greatest Shows, and I think he received an Emmy nomination for that, if I'm not mistaken. So it was like maybe you like to see that a little more of Belichick when he's coaching the Patriots, but he's not that way. But he seems like you would like to sit down and just have a chat with him about things other than football. I mean, I think he's a big lacrosse fan too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Of course, his days at Navy, and obviously he seems to know what's going on. I mean, you might see him at the NCAA tournament. In a while. So he's a guy. He probably seems to, take, he's one guy in football, and then away from the game, he's. I mean, if you recall back in the NFL draft when it was the virtual draft that they had, his dog was at the computer.
I did see that. Yeah. That was one of the funniest parts of the whole draft for me. I mean, I think the dog was making the picks. I'm almost positive. That was awesome. Well, I don't know that we're going to get a rematch of the 2018 Super Bowl this year, but
I don't think so.
you still got that one on me. So that was a tough loss that day, boy.
Well, that completed my Philadelphia championships. I mean, I was spoiled back when I was growing up. We had season tickets to the Flyers back in the 70s, and they won those two cups in 74 and 75, and we're always in contention for it. And the Phillies winning a World Series in 1980, The Sixers winning an NBA title in 1983, and of course the Phillies again in 2008. And people forget that the USFL, when it was the Philadelphia Stars, won in '85, and so it's been when Philadelphia sports teams win, it's great, but when they lose, it's like agony. I know my son, he takes a lot of this to heart, and I see a lot of him in me, because I would get mad when my teams wouldn't do well. And I think one thing what stuck with me is something my father told me when we were watching Game 3 of the '76 Cup Finals with the Flyers and the Montreal Canadiens, and Montreal was winning that game. I was getting mad. He just said, you can't win all the time, and if you don't want to, you want to be mad, you're not going to go to the next game. So I just sort of, took it to heart, and they end up losing, getting swept in that series. But you have to realize sometimes the other teams are better than your team.
Well, that's just the way it goes, right? I mean, but you've had some good teams over the years. I don't see you talk a lot about the Sixers. Are you a Sixers fan? I'm assuming.
I've gotten more back into it thanks to my son, because he really got into the Sixers with the trust the process situation. I sort of stayed away from them because I just didn't like the way the organization. They had some awful teams for a time, but I'm happy that they hired Doc Rivers.
I was going to ask you that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great hire, and I think he's going to bring a lot. He's going to bring discipline to this team. He's going to command respect, which I don't think the players had for Brett Brown. Now you see, you really wonder why the Sixers let Jimmy Butler go, and because Brett Brown didn't want to coach Jimmy Butler, and then we see what happened there. The Sixers get swept out in the first round of the playoffs and look pathetic and getting swept by the Celtics. And we see Jimmy Butler playing for an NBA title. So I think that the big thing is going to, Joel Embiid's got to get in better shape than what he is, and they got to get Ben Simmons to shoot the basketball. He doesn't shoot. He's afraid to shoot the basketball. They make a big deal when he makes a three-pointer, but he's got to be more than just a distributor. He's got to, or just drive to the basket. If he's open, shoot the basketball. It's not that hard. Work on your shots. Stop hanging out with the Kardashians.
They seem to be the ruination of a lot of sports figures.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens there, and hopefully Doc has a say in what personnel that they bring in to help Embiid and Simmons. But I love the hire, and I think he's going to, the fans will be down there and Philly will be happy, and that maybe. So we'll see how this works out.
Well, just touch real quick on our last couple minutes here, if you can go a little past 9 o'clock. Sure. I know I said 9 o'clock, but I just want to touch on college football a little bit. Obviously it's kind of been a little bit of a mess. I mean, obviously the Big Ten deciding not to play, the Pac-12 deciding not to play, then deciding to play. When we get to the playoff, I mean, you're going to have some teams played 11 games and some teams played, if there's problems with any COVID cancellations, like for the Pac-10, they could play 6 games or 5 games. I mean, it's going to be, and then they're going to complain when they don't get people in the playoff, and maybe they should have expanded the playoff this year.
I think they should have. I don't know why they didn't. I mean, Major League Baseball could do it. College football could have done it for just this 1 year, and maybe experiment a little bit. This is time to experiment, because let's see how an 18 playoff works.
Right.
Because if it were up to me, I'd do away with the bowl system. It's
nobody watches.
There's too many bowls. Like you said, nobody watches, and I mean, they barely. How do they make money? And you're gonna have teams that could end up this year with losing records playing in a bowl. For what reason? The bowl system served its time because they didn't want to have a true national champion with playoffs and all that stuff, because all these organizations make money. But I think the time is coming to say, look, it's over with. If 1AA can have playoffs, if Division II can have playoffs, Division III can have playoffs, then certainly the 1A schools could have playoffs. It's just expand the pool, And I know in December we're talking the end of semester and exams and all that stuff. But you know what? Start it after maybe late December. You maybe take 16 teams and you just go from there instead of all these bowl games. Of course, then what would ESPN have to program if they didn't have all these bowl games to televise?
Well, that's the only reason for them. You look in the stands and there's like less than there are now in the COVID situation. There's less.
I mean, and schools probably lose money because they got to spend money to put these guys up in hotels and traveling party, and it's maybe they don't have to spend the money on maybe the organizers pay for it, but still there's a lot of money being lost by these schools to go to these, especially these minor bowls.
Yeah, I agree, and I think they'd expand. I mean, what are those other divisions? They do at least 16 teams, don't they? Most of them.
Yeah.
It could easily be done. I mean, obviously, you'd still have some arguments. You have arguments in the NCAA tournament, a basketball tournament, when they have 66 teams or whatever they have now.
Yeah, I mean, why not have a MAC school like where the Bowling Green, Buffalo, those schools? Why can't they compete for a national championship? They're Division I. Why can't they compete?
Take all the league champions or something. You can find a way to do this.
It can be done. Take all league champions plus a wild card. That's probably the part where how do you determine the wild card? You mean, do you pick a runner up from one of the conference championship games? I don't know, but let's this is the year to experiment. You try 8, see how it looks, and if you like it, go with it next year. And if you want to expand to 16 down the road, let's do that.
Well, with again another screwed up season like all the other leagues have had. I mean, who do you? Is there anybody you can see toppling Alabama or?
No, I don't. I mean, Big Ten. There's nobody in the Big Ten that. I mean, maybe Ohio State could do it, but they're going to have obviously the slow start. I don't see anybody in the Pac-12. We saw LSU lose on Saturday at home to Mississippi State. So
my upset pick last week.
Yeah,
Mississippi State.
So I mean maybe Clemson. Clemson again. They're tough with Trevor Lawrence at quarterback. So maybe we're heading toward another one of those Clemson Alabama championship games.
Well, being my stepson he did his undergrad at Miami, so we're Hurricane fans.
Oh yeah, that's a team. Oh my goodness,
they're playing great.
They look like the Hurricanes of the '80s.
We'll find out how good they are next week when they play Clemson, though.
Yeah, that'll be a fun one.
It will be fun. Well, Ken, listen, I appreciate you joining me here today. If you want to hang around to chat for a second, once I wrap up the show, you can certainly do that. If you got to run, I certainly understand that. But I'd love to have you on again. We just touched the iceberg today. It's hard when we get into these shows. There's so much going on at one time. It's hard to concentrate on one thing because you want to touch on everything, and there isn't time to do it. And unless I quit my real job and do a 3-hour show, I guess every day that we can do that.
Yeah, there's a lot of fun, Keith. Appreciate it.
I appreciate you being on. Thanks, Ken. Ken Schott, Associate Sports Editor for the Daily Gazette. Ken, you got a podcast of your own, no, don't you?
Oh, yes. Yeah, can I promote? Yes, the Parting Shots podcast. I do it once a week. My most recent episode I posted on Wednesday. I talked with Mark Ketchester, and a lot of people obviously know him from Gilderland. He's the voice of the NBA on ESPN Radio, which we previewed the finals between the Lakers and the Heat. I talked with Diana Nierhaus of the Tampa Bay Lightning, and if that's a name familiar to hockey fans around here, she covered the Adirondack minor league hockey teams for the Post-Star in Glens Falls. We discussed the Lightning winning the Stanley Cup, and I had Tim Healy from Newsday. He covers the Mets. We wrapped up the Mets season and looked ahead to the ownership change with Steve Cohen set to take over the club from the Wilpons. So
I did watch her. Yeah, I did tune in for a lot of that, and I try to when I can. So please, everybody, check out Ken's podcast. Read them in the Gazette.
Yep.
And I appreciate your time with us today.
I appreciate that. I want to say my podcast is on the dailygazette.com. It's also available on Apple, Castbox, Spotify, and SoundCloud. I'm looking for other platforms as well.
Awesome. I got to chat with you about that sometime. So,
yep.
All right. I appreciate your time again. Thanks, Ken.
Yeah, thanks, Keith.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, I want to thank Ken for coming on today. He was a great guest. Ken covers a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff I want to touch on with him. I want to thank everybody who has been in the room today. There's been people in and out, and I want to thank Jim and Bob. My dad's here again. My dad's always here. Love my dad. Bettina Dill, David, and Joe Calderon. Oh, you got to make sure you check out Joe's comment, Ken. I'll tell you when we get out of here. But I want to thank you for the comment, Joe. I really appreciate that. Maybe we'll have you on one day and we'll talk about your venture as well. Anyway, you guys have a great weekend. I'll be on Sunday morning, as always, and we'll cover some of the stuff that happened in college football, the Major League Baseball playoffs, and we'll do my picks. So far, so good. Haven't had a losing week yet, and it's against the spread. So anybody who wants to join me and pick against me, we're still looking for that guy. I appreciate it, everybody. Thank you for joining TGI Sports Talk here on the NLB Network. And I hope you'll tune in Sunday and, of course, next Friday when my guest will be Dick Hoops Weiss next week. We're going to have a great time with Dick. See you guys later. Have a great weekend.